Thank you, Aishewu. This is all a storm in a teacup, nothing more than that. The issue is not a new issue. So let me first of all say that. You saw some blogs or some news sites, online sites, making those normal wild introductions like breaking news, just in, fresh facts. No. Those are not fresh facts. They are not new issues. These issues have been in the public domain for more than 20 years, and the issues have been sufficiently addressed and dismissed. Being here today really is out of deference to perhaps younger voters who may think that these are new issues, and out of respect, for Nigerians generally, to come and further explain. Really, but if you ask me, none of these allegations deserve any explanation again because they have been explained over and over again. But let me go straight to the issues like you've mentioned. Yes, there is a simplistic letter, a letter that is simple enough. We can go straight to that first of all, from the US government in 2003 that says that that letter was signed by the legal attaché to the US Embassy in Lagos that says that they investigated or made inquiries from the government of the United States, and they came to the conclusion, officially they wrote back, one Michael Bonnet or so, wrote back at that time saying that there was no indictment, no criminal indictment, no conviction, nothing of that sort regarding Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. But what was the background to that? The background to that was that in 2003, months preceding the re-election of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu as governor of Lagos State, there were several petitions from even within his own party, the Alliance for Democracy. So the screening committee at that time, had to raise alarm to the party that, well, they didn't want to put the ticket of the AD in Lagos State in danger because they were scared that perhaps many of those petitions that were written against Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu may have some substance. And there were these allegations, like you have said. This was, of course, nearly 20 years ago. There were these allegations, these same allegations, nothing more than that. These same papers were obtained. These same papers were submitted to the AD screening committee. And so the chairman of the AD, Alliance for Democracy at that time, I think Prince Ogunleye, was forced to write to the CP, then Arabame, CP Lagos, then the later Arabame, and say, look, can you get in touch with your colleagues in the US, the law enforcement agencies, and tell us whether there's any truth in these petitions, so that they didn't want to, they wanted to determine whether to give Asiwaju the ticket again, the second-term ticket to run as governor of Lagos State. And so it was his own party, out of, pure altruistic motive. They wanted to get to the truth of the matter. The then Arabame, the later Arabame, now CP then, escalated the matter to the IG, Lagos, then Tafa Balogun, who is also now late. Tafa Balogun, at his level of the IG of police, now wrote an official letter to the United States, to the embassy in Lagos, to say, can you give us a response, the Nigerian government a response, as to whether Asiwaju was involved in any of such, issues. There was, therefore, sometime investigation. They contacted the FBI in the United States. And then the FBI, supplied the information to the embassy in Lagos. And then the Michael Bonnet wrote back to the Inspector General of Police, Tafa Balogun, and said, look, we have official confirmation from the United States that there was no criminal indictment, no conviction, no criminal charge against Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. But then, was that the end of the matter? No. Because his distractors kept bringing up these issues over and over at every point in time, when his political profile is rising, when he wants to run for office, or, any political turn, in his life, they will bring up these issues. And then these issues have surfaced again. But then let me go back, really, like you mentioned, to what happened. Because there was a case. Papers are flying up and down. And at this point in time, even though we have confirmed there's no conviction, even though we have confirmed he's fit to run for office, even though we have confirmed that he has met all the constitutional requirements to run for office. But there are papers, after all. They are certified true copies. Now, the dates on the papers mentioned The papers are flying up and down. The date of the certification is 2022. So they are using this to confuse people that these are fresh papers coming from the United States. Let me explain this to non-lawyers. If documents are 40 years old or even 100 years old in court, once you go to court and apply for certified true copy of those documents, they will give you those documents, but they will stamp the day they are giving you those documents. In other words, they are putting the stamp of the day those documents are certified. So they are not fresh documents. It's just the stamp of certification to confirm that you have just requested for them. Now, so this is what the detractors and the PDP and these people, perhaps that's what they went to the US for, when they pretended that they went to for high-level engagement. This is part of the high-level engagement they went for, just to go and, deceive Nigerians and bring out washed-out papers that are totally dead as dodo. They brought them back to Nigerians, and they said freshly issued court papers in the US. They are not freshly issued. They have just been certified by the US court. But then going to those documents, let's go into those documents. What happened? Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu was not even a defendant in that case. That will shock you, right? It will shock you, but go back to the documents. It was an action in rem, not an action in personam. For those who are law students or who are non-lawyers, let me explain. An action in rem is an action where you proceed against properties, not against the person. So what they did at that time was that they proceeded against certain accounts. And those accounts bore companies that were linked to Bola Tinubu or the ones personally held by him. Those accounts were 10 accounts in 3 banks. 10 accounts, let me repeat. 10 different accounts in 3 different banks. Accounts legitimately opened by him, opened, in normal procedure by him. They didn't find any problem with that. And there were funds that he kept saving, where he was keeping his savings in the US. So, as I speak with you, if you want to know whether there is a criminal charge against somebody, you must have a complainant. So you will see the state versus so and so person. You must see that. And then you must have a charge number. You must have a charge number if there's a charge against anybody. There is no charge number in those documents. The documents also reflect the titles of plaintiff and defendants. A criminal process does not bear the title plaintiff, Shehu. A criminal process does not. Please permit me the modesty at this point, because I keep mentioning these things, to tell you, and the modesty to tell you that I'm not just a lawyer, Shehu. And I want you to pick a biro and a paper to begin to take notes, because I know you are a student, a law student. So this is also a lecture session for you. Take a biro and paper. A charge must contain a charge number. It must contain the title of a complainant or the state versus a defendant or an accused person. There is no such in all of those documents. If you look at those documents too, Asiwaju Bola Tinubu was not mentioned as a defendant. They've skipped that. It was only account numbers that were mentioned, and at the end of the day, they just said account numbers in the name of Tinubu. That is all. Not that Tinubu was a defendant. It was accounts in his name, not him. Those accounts were sued, not him. It was action in rem. So, there is no charge. There was no charge. There was no indictment. There was no criminal process. It was a purely civil process against those accounts. But then what happened against those accounts? Now, there was an affidavit by somebody called Kevin Moss. Kevin Moss is just a normal prosecutor you see, like we were in the EFCC. Like I said, let me just be a little immodest. Immodest in the sense that I'm not just a lawyer, I'm not just a member of the inner bar, a senior advocate. I am one of